So when I was in my 20s, I was really sick. My organs were shutting down. I had a virus that attacked my liver. And because I had been so unhealthy at the time and not aware of it, it was just shutting everything down. And I ended up with gallstones that backed into my bile ducts and they got stuck. And it was a really big situation. And at the same time, my partner was diagnosed with the same cancer that my mom died of when she was 40. And so we were both on the edge of the veil. And during that time, we were able to communicate telepathically. Like it was beyond anything I could have ever experienced. And that was before I actually slipped into a near-death experience. It was just being that close to the veil. We were able to tap into each other. And she actually did end up passing away not too soon after that. But in my experience, I had to take care of myself. I had to choose myself in that moment because I couldn't take care of her and I didn't have anyone to help me. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do this on my own. I'll figure everything out. And I got really sick to the point where I was laying in bed one day and I wanted water. I was like, I need water. And this, mind you, I was for 3 months had energy to maybe get out of bed and feed my dogs. Like I didn't have much more energy than that. And so I crawled to the kitchen, literally crawling and passing out along the way. It took me about 15 minutes to get to the kitchen to get water. And I eventually made it back to my bed. And at the time, my dogs were not allowed in the room due to allergy issues. And I I went back to my bed. I finally made it back and I'm laying there and my dogs come in and lay right beside me. They did not do that for years because they weren't allowed to, but that was a moment where I was like, something's wrong, something's off, right? And sure enough, it took about 10 minutes of me just laying there where all of a sudden I felt this immense sense of peace come over me. The most peace I've ever felt in my entire life. It was just the most beautiful feeling that you can't really describe it with words. It's just, I knew that everything was going to be okay. And during that time, the only fear that I had in life was if I die, who's going to know about my dogs? I lived alone. I didn't have family. I knew that my landlord wouldn't be around anytime soon. So it was just a question of if I die, who's going to take care of them? And all of a sudden that fear went out the window and I knew that they'd be fine, they would be taken care of somehow. And I let myself slip away. I was really just ready to go. And I felt that sense of it's okay to let go. I don't need to be here. And so I slip away. And the next thing I know, there's just like this bright white light. I mean, we hear that time and time again, right? And it's this bright light that you're suddenly just in. And I'm feeling great. I'm just happy. I am free. I really have no thought process of what's happening. But then all of a sudden, I have these two guides rush in and they come up to me. And one of the really beautiful things about this experience is that they were Native American. And I had always had a really deep connection to the Native American culture, and I couldn't understand why. Drums can take me into a trance really quickly. And I've been that way since I was a child, and I could never understand why. And when they came to me, I understood. They showed me that I live in Native American tribes for many of my lifetimes. And so that clicked all of a sudden. But they came to me and they said, you can't come, like you can't come yet. You need to go back and this is what you need to do. And they pinpointed exactly what I needed to do to take care of myself and get my body in check. And funny enough, it had something to do with what my partner at the time was trying to tell me to do. She kept telling me, this is what you need to do. And I had a big ego at the time and I was like, no, I'm not going to listen to that. I don't think that's true.
Yeah.
And sure enough, they come in and they said, this is exactly what you need to do. And I was like, okay, fine. And so during this time, I want to like go into depth. Is that okay? Because there was a
Sure.
really beautiful experience that happened. I got to see Earth from a distant perspective. And in this perspective, Earth looked dingy. It looked dirty. It looked unhealthy. And there's other beings all of a sudden that are around me. And I'm in a spaceship like container. And I couldn't make sense of that. I figured that out later on in another near-death experience. But while I'm there, I see Earth and I turn to these beings and I say, does that mean that I have to go back? And they say, yes, you have to go back. And I said, okay. And so they showed me why I'm here and that I have a lot to teach people.